is inside, and I have to work over there, and I don't
I
particularly
agree
want
with that.
to be in here with an inmate.
Well, you get
Sorry.
that's okay, but I mean, they're trying to rehabilitate themselves, and how they rehabilitate themselves is interacting with the public.
Well,
And,
then, they can interact outside.
but the thing about it is if we had the cameras in there, you'd be safe, and everything would be recorded, and you'd have nothing to worry about.
Yeah.
And if they're over there cleaning, then you all could take a break over here or something, where you're not in the same room. If you worry about it, put the camera in there, you wouldn't have to worry about them taking anything. And JD's gonna be in there in it with them anyway, because he's gotta monitor them. No, he does. JD's gotta monitor them. He just
I
can't
know
drop
he
them
does,
off.
but I don't want to, but we don't need them in here.
Well,
This
yeah,
is
the
a
only
city
thing I
building,
can-
there's classified information over there.
Well, you've got locks on safes and file cabinets, you lock them.
We
You don't
have
leave
to
them
work
open.
here during the day. When do you want the inmates to come? During the day when we're here?
During the day before they start.
He don't have time to run like that, do you? He owns his whole city, he needs.
I know, he does a good job on 25
And I know,
and Fowler Road.
I know
He
with the
does.
house, that he did not say he did not want to help clean out the house, he would get the inmates, but I'm just relaying, the council cannot give orders for him what his job description is. But
Which one?
Here's the clean out that house, just because the city purchased that house doesn't mean that's JD's job to get the inmates and clean out that house. But I've talked to JD, he's willing to do that. But I'm just relaying that we can't give orders for him to do something that's not his.
Okay, well, I'm not gonna give an order, I'm gonna make a suggestion that JD do it part of his 40 hours a week where there's no overtime. And if somebody else has to pick it up,
In the winter, I could see that,
he starts at 6:30 in the morning. He can have it clean before you all get in here.
my recommendation, we need him to do today too. My recommendation would be, in the wintertime, getting a blade for in front of his truck.
I said that at the first meeting.
Well, that's not in the budget. We had it in the budget, it got taken out, so.
I got denied on the first meeting that we had. I said we need to do that instead of waiting for the county to come. So Megan or nobody slips coming in here in the morning when you all open up the shop.
There's money in the budget for a blade.
But I don't see why JD can't do it on his, on the daytime, because it's public works.
Danny, is what you're saying that you just don't want to increase the cost of the city? Is that what you're saying?
That's what I'm
You're
saying.
not saying what, that who does what, you're
No,
suggesting it be.
I'm just saying use the inmates. They want to be rehabilitated. They want to get out of there. How they get rehabilitated is interacting with the community. And that's how they're going to end up going right back in jail if you keep them in there. And they get a good meal too.
I'm all for saving money for the city. Trust me on that. But we also hired 2 attorneys, and you gave a raise to 1, and it's okay for the council to do that. It's not okay for a 26-year employee to continue to clean the city building for what, $74 a week?
Maybe you could put bids out and see if somebody can do it cheaper.
If we've been doing it this way for the last 30 years, why is it coming up now?
It's not in the budget.
Oh, okay.
The overtime is not in the budget. And I would just like to clarify that we didn't increase the cost of the attorneys from the mayor's budget. Actually, we lowered it for the cost of both attorneys.
When Pete was let go, he was making $500 a month, now he's making $650. That's a raise.
Well, but you hired an attorney at $900 a month, and we didn't feel like that was fair to you.
So he's doing twice the work. We'll move on. We'll table that till the August 6th, 2019 meeting. At this time, we have a code enforcement officer, Wanda Hammonds, for her report.
Thank you, ma'am.
First of all, I want to
On behalf of the Crupper family and my family, I want to thank you all for the gift that you sent on behalf of my dad. That really meant a lot to me, no more than I had just started work here, how much you all meant to me, and it was really touching for our family. It's been a difficult couple of weeks, and I totally did not get the work done this month that I wanted to, but I promise you I'll make it up in the month of July. On our June report, I did 15 business cards were left at residents. Most of those were for parking on sidewalks and for weeds, but I didn't send a lot to the mowing because of the rain that we had. Everybody got behind on that, so we kind of overlooked at that, but most folks are catching back up now that the weather's getting better. I patrolled 14 streets, and these are different streets than I had last month. I had 2 business complaints, and I took care of those. I had 16 residential complaints, and we completed those. And when I say completed, that doesn't mean that they have complied. That means that they have completed those and went out and talked to those people. But most of those have done that. On the 204 North Main, the bird house, I'm getting really frustrated with that. It's still in litigation with Steve Howe. I have talked 3 times in the month of June with Patrick Stanley, and the last word that I got was there was supposed to have been a bulldozer over there in 2 days after June the 20th. Well, I didn't see it, you didn't see it, so that's disappointing. Don't think that I'm going to stop on that, and we'll work with Alex and Steve Howe and see where we are on that. Today was one of my first full days back to work, and I've got tons of complaints that I will handle tomorrow. And feel free anytime. I know Jennifer's reaching out to me on some areas that maybe that I'm missing because we can't see everything that's in the city, and I appreciate that, and Paula has too, that I can take care of. I did make some phone calls today, some concerns with the swimming pool down on US 25 and Violet Road. I want you to know I have stopped there twice. I've left a copy of the ordinance with them. Her pool measure's okay. She does not have to have a fence. However, she has been requested to take the steps out and to hide them. You can't just leave them sitting there because anybody can pick them up and put them back in the pool. Also, I have requested that she takes any kind of stairway that builds up to the pool that anybody can climb up in, for instance, a chair. So I'm keeping up, I'm monitoring that as well for the safety because we definitely don't want any problems down there, accidents with the pool. Anyone have any questions or concerns?
I do.
Yes.
The pigs and harvesters.
I don't, they're gone.
She sold.
They're slow.
She sold.
We still people went to the market.
When we talked at the last meeting about looking into either the fire department or building inspector, have we taken those steps yet on the 204?
No.
I think we said we needed to talk to Alex about it, we need to consult with him, that's what I remember.
So I can give you a little bit of update on the board and the reconditioning of it. We're literally starting from scratch on the board, creating, as you know, a job description for a code enforcement officer that allows her to issue citations. We're actually going to have some training for the people. We just appointed really your third one today. So you had the apparatus in place, but nothing as far as policy, structure, format. We've got all of that now. Juan and I have been working on that. I was out last week, and of course, considerably for obvious reasons you were out. So we'll get on that. And then we're going to have to go through the code enforcement procedure to do it because we certainly don't want to tear a house down and have somebody sue us for it. So we want to do it the right way and allow us to put a lien on them as opposed to them suing us for taking the property. So that's the way we're doing it. That's okay with you guys?
I would like to say that I think, although there've been a few little glitches, I know a few people have complained, but I think the code enforcement job has been very positive for the city to clean up.
I've seen changes, I'm gonna echo what you know for a second. I've visibly seen changes for the highway without going to look for them. That's a good thing. Can I ask a question? I'm not sure how, it's going to end up with what's the right way to handle it, so it's probably looking at you. There was some discussion, and I don't recall whether you were here or not at the last meeting, about some pot-bellied pigs and harvesters, and then I think we talked about animal control and chickens and stuff like that, but I never feel like we drove it to resolution. I got the feeling, doing a little bit of research, that we don't have definitive enough ordinances to characterize what's allowed and what's not allowed.
And we do not.
And is that on our list to, so I know it's not a huge priority, but is that on our list to
My
update
understanding
that?
was the council, it was the council to get that ordinance together.
And define what animals you all want to
Yeah.
enforce. I mean, if there's other animals out there besides pigs.
Okay, let me ask it in crayon, to get it on picture again. You're wanting some input from us to develop an ordinance that's more definitive.
Or put it on the caucus item for communication, everybody just really talk about what animals, snakes and chickens, I mean, what exactly you all are concerned about. And then we can craft, Pete and I can work on crafting an ordinance that ensures that those issues, because they're gonna crop back up.
Okay,
It's just a matter of
we'll
time.
take that on our list too. Somewhere down the road.
Can we,
I didn't know somebody else was working on it.
yeah, how can we get something put on the agenda for the caucus meeting?
Oh, we can just let it put it on there, but it's the same as it. And that's open, you know, we can talk about it, okay? It's no problem. Thank you, Mark.
Thank you, Lauren.
That's wonderful.
The law enforcement report, Brian couldn't be with us tonight, thank you. Todd?
No
Good to
problem.
see you.
Good to see you too. I didn't make copies like Juan did. Sorry about that. We, as far as law enforcement goes, first one, we executed 2 search warrants over the last month in city limits of Crittenden. One was, search warrant was executed for, and we made 2 arrests for heroin possession out of the one house, and I forget the total, 5.6 grams of heroin we took out of the house. And the other one was a search warrant we executed for cultivating marijuana, which we made 1 arrest out of that. So both of those are in the court system now as far as that goes, inside the city limits of Crittenden. So I'll hit some of the major points. I mean, the total number of calls that we responded to in the city limits of Crittenden are 481 total calls for the month. Just 88 traffic stops, 1 accident with injuries, 1 assault, 8 disturbance calls, 1 fight call, 3 911 calls, 2 intoxicated person calls, 6 motorist assists, 4 suspicious persons, and just some of the bigger ones. I don't see how we're business checked, but I know our guys were out doing business checks and leave some more even cards on doors. We've got door hangers that they put out now as well. We also had, Danny, Councilman Martin mentioned to me, we had bike patrol out for one night. While he was out on his bike patrol, he did make 3 arrests on the bike while he was out that night. They were expecting a bike to be riding around in the middle of the night in Crittenden. So that's a thing that we're trying to do. Unfortunately, that deputy put us 2 weeks in today, somewhere else. So we'll work through that. We'll take care of that. But we're out here. We're taking calls. We're trying to patrol the streets and do the stuff that we agreed to do. I think you should see us out here. We have an officer here all the time. You know, unless he gets called out for something else, or we get busy on calls inside the city that you may not hit those streets like you said in your ordinance. But for the most part, we're out 24/7. There's always an officer out here, and we're busy. Second shift is call to call. Third shift is busy with traffic stops, and actually one of the search warrants was executed on 3rd shift, and the other one was executed in combination with 2nd shift and 3rd shift. So we're out here, we're busy, trying to take care of things and keep things under control. Question?
Your cultivation, was that personal use or mass production?
Well, cultivation requires you to have at least more than 5 plants. So when we charge with cultivation, you have more than 5 plants, which constitutes under the KRS that it's more than personal use.
Do we have control with the speed issues in town?
And we are in the middle of a grant right now where we do have officers out. This is Speed Week is what it's called, so we'll have officers out. We're trying to run extra radar and doing overtime details through the state of Kentucky for Speed Week, trying to slow people down.
On Main Street, I've had several complaints, and they do drive like, run into fires, you know,
Yeah.
it's getting pretty bad. Okay.
Anything else?
If you leave me those copies, I can email them to our council members.
This, yeah. Anything else?
We appreciate you. Thank you. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
This time, Chief Burton, you have something for us?
All right, here is our run analysis for the last month. Now, can you go past one down, please? Gotta admit, egg on my face. I went through and did all the numbers and didn't do the tallies on the right. So, the numbers at the bottom as far as total runs for the month, total runs year to date are correct, but the individual categories I didn't of water. I did not get that correct, so I'll present that to each council person as soon as I get that corrected. Also, the last meeting, there was some discussion as far as what the department used as policies in the house for the membership, so that we were adhering to the standards in which Crittenden wanted us to behave. And instead of trying to go through and reinvent the wheel, I figured, just give you our handbook. This is what's the introductory for each of the members whenever they first get on. This is the stuff that explains the general rules and regulations that we have on the fire ground and on fire activities. So, figured you guys would look at that and be able to decide if there's something that you needed added, tweaked, changed. Mr. Evans, did I give you? I did give you one, okay. Everybody got one? So, we have seen for this last month an uptick in the number of heroin calls. And believe it or not, some non-opioids, some old school medications making a comeback. I do not know what the answer is. It's hit or miss, but it seems like once you start taking some of the opioids off the street, then we're falling back to the prescription medications. So,
Chief, can I ask you where you get most of your calls? What geographical location in Crittenden do you get these overdoses from?
sir, that is, we have been receiving them, it's like this past week, we got 2 calls in the same day to Coach Stop. Haven't been to Coach Stop in 3 months on anything. Sorry, but gotta keep that going. We've had calls to McDonald's. We've had calls to the parking lot of the Dollar Store, the restroom of the Marathon Station. There's no rhyme or reason. It happens just about anywhere.
You're looking for a pattern, so
Just kind of.
I know by the look that it wasn't a satisfactory answer, but unfortunately it is the correct one. If we were looking at specific addresses, that is something that the law enforcement is able to, keep a watch, increase patrols, keep eyes on it. But we're finding it no rhyme or reason.
Do you all have plenty of Narcan?
We do not carry Narcan.
What
The
do you
fire
do?
department, based upon the fact that our medical director, who is Han Lee from St. Elizabeth Physicians, did not want us to carry it. He wanted the EMS to carry it. Now, Dry Ridge Fire Department and AMR both carried the Narcan, both in injectable form and in the atomized or nasal injection. We were seeing a large amount of the intramuscular injection that doctors' offices, the health clinic were handing out to users. But we're not seeing that near as much as we were. Well, I know Kroger still runs out of it every time that they get a batch. They put it on the shelf and people snatch it up. So No, right now, Crittenden Fire Department does not administer it, but Dry Ridge Fire Department and their crews, EMR with their crews, do have both forms.
That surprises me because the health department recommends that anybody who thinks they're gonna come into contact with anybody who uses drugs to carry it. Neither you or anybody.
Problem is, when you're looking at one brick of 10 being $900, just in the month of May and June, we're looking at almost $2,000 worth of usage.
Well, that's why I asked you about it, because there's a lot of grant money out right now for purchase that. I don't know if the
Yes
EMS
and
people are
no.
getting it. The health departments are getting a lot.
Anything else?
While you're there, I went up and talked to the chief earlier today, made kind of a trade-off deal.
It's not on the agenda, Todd.
Oh, okay.
Let's keep that for the copies.
Okay.
Thank, I don't mean to be rude, but it's,
I don't know.
thank you.
Anything else, Mayor? All right, thank you, Mayor.
At this time, the council has the ordinances that they want to prepare.
Yes, I have the first one, and I'll read that. This, I assume this is the first reading, is that right? This will be first reading. An ordinance of the City of Crittenden, Grant County, Kentucky, establishing rates for copies of city documents and records. Whereas it was recently determined by the Office of the Attorney General of the Commonwealth of Kentucky that the city had not properly followed the provisions of KRS 61.80 regarding an open records request. And whereas the city desires to in all ways be in compliance with all applicable statutes, regulations, and laws. Be it ordained by the City Council of Crittenden that any documents or other records requested by the mayor, councilperson, or other city officer shall be provided at no cost. Any documents or other records requested by the general public shall be provided at 10 cents per page. Copies of meeting agendas, notices, and minutes shall be provided at no cost. That's to the public. To the extent the city incurs additional costs in the fulfillment of such requests, such costs may be passed through to the public in compliance with KRS 61.874. To the extent any portion of this ordinance or other city ordinance's policy or procedure shall be determined ambiguous, then said ordinance, policy, or procedure shall be interpreted in a manner which ensures full compliance of the Open Records Act codified at KRS 61.870.
I make a motion. All first reading, sorry, wake up, disregard, strike that.
If you guys could give the number to that ordinance, I'll get it to the, Next,
I guess I'm next.
don't get Paul.
An ordinance establishing the salary of alcohol beverage control administrator of City of Crittenden, Grant County, Kentucky, and repealing ordinance